Hello and welcome to Game Week 2 predictions of the Premier League, and we're going to be starting off on the Amex Stadium. It's 12:30 PM on the 24th of August. It's Brighton and Hove Albion versus Manchester United. Brighton, the opening game, they won at 3-0 against Everton. What a great game. At the start, it looked a bit sloppy in terms of passing, but overall, Mitoma is back. Minter, what a great assist. And Woifer also getting assists. Debut assists for the two Feyenoord players, and Fabian Hurtschler is gelling with Brighton. In pre-season, they were scoring goals. They're scoring goals again, and I see them scoring past a very good Manchester United defence. I'm saying this now, Man United's defence is probably in the top 4 in the Premier League, because that defence against Fulham was a brick wall. Adama Traore just once got through. Everton's that once getting through to the penalty box. Martinez out-strengthened. Dalot had him in his back pocket. And the entire defence played fantastic. Onana made good saves. The problem wasn't the striker. The reason why it took him a while to get into the game was that striker position, because they were trying to find a final third pass, but they couldn't. And when they crossed it into the box, no one was in the middle. But Xerxes came on and got a goal. Some great thinking by Erik ten Hag to bring on Garnacho and Xerxes. Brighton have a good attack. Man United have good defence. That's going to even out for a 1-1 draw in my opinion, come the final whistle. As we move on to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, it's obviously Tottenham Hotspur versus Everton. We're now on 3 PM kickoffs, and Tottenham, near the end of that game, wasn't fantastic. I mean, what are they doing? They just left Jamie Vardy to do whatever he wants, because no one was marking him. I can't remember who it was, but they made a mistake under the pressure of Mavidi. They made a mistake and they gave Mavidi the ball to have another chance. Ever since that first goal conceded from terrible defending, Tottenham constantly made the same mistake and left too many gaps out at the back, and they just weren't defending fantastic. The defending awareness was not there, but they still are a better side than Everton. Even with defending awareness not fantastic, I do feel like Everton will get a goal this time, because they were close at times against Brighton to get a goal and maybe should have at least got a goal. But against Spurs, Spurs are better, especially with home advantage towards Spurs. Everton was too dreadful. Spurs was not as dreadful as Everton, so Spurs will definitely win this. I'm going for 2-1 towards Tottenham Hotspur come the final whistle. As we move on to Selhurst Park, it's Crystal Palace versus West Ham United. And Crystal Palace lost against Brentford. I was not expecting it. I was either expecting a 1-1 draw or a 3-1 win to Crystal Palace. But Eze, that goal got disallowed. I don't think it should have been from the free kick. I think that should have counted. And you know what? They did create a lot of shots. They had more possession than Brentford. I think they probably deserved the point. But Brentford did look world class at some points. We'll get onto them later on in the video. But Crystal Palace, I don't think it's the end of the world. It's only the first game week, and now being at home with West Ham losing, I feel like Crystal Palace can bounce back. But transfer market has done well, so I don't see them losing it, especially challenging Aston Villa all the way to the end. But I feel like Crystal Palace still showing some good signs. The last game wasn't as good as pre-season or the last few games from last season, but it still was a decent display, and they had 2 disallowed goals, so they were close of getting a point, and it wasn't a dreadful performance. So I feel like, especially with home advantage, they'll be able to draw this back. And honestly, I predicted West Ham in 9th and Crystal Palace in 10th. I think both of them are going to finish in a similar position, and I cannot split the sides, so I'm going down the middle for a high-scoring 2-2 draw. We move over to St Mary's Stadium. It's Southampton versus Nottingham Forest. And Southampton, you know what? If Newcastle didn't have a world-class defence, Newcastle didn't have a world-class keeper, Southampton could have easily won that 3-4-1. They created so many more opportunities than Newcastle. They played fantastic, but the defence and goalkeeper was too good. And considering Nottingham Forest has a worse keeper, a keeper that I don't rate too highly, you know, I think he's okay, but not really highly, considering the defence is worse than Newcastle's, and Danilo breaking his ankle, which I'm hoping will make a speedy recovery, but considering he's also not there, Danilo, and the defence is worse than Newcastle, the goalkeeper isn't fantastic and is worse than Newcastle's. If they can play like they did against Newcastle, I know Newcastle had 10 men, but even before that, they were playing better. If they can play like that, then Southampton will win this. And considering they created loads of chances, they will score loads of goals, but Nottingham Forest Chris Wood, great. They still managed to get a point against Bournemouth. I will give Nottingham Forest 2 goals. Nottingham Forest have a great attack. So I'm going to go 4-2 to Southampton come the final whistle. As we move on to Craven Cottage, it's Fulham versus Leicester City. I can see this being a draw. Leicester did so well to hold off against Tottenham for the majority of that game, and they did so well to capitalise on mistakes. We've seen it with Mavidi near the end of the game after the easy Jamie Vardy goal. I mean, he's 37. All he has to do is stand there and head it into the back of net as easy as possible. Ever since that goal, they were pushing on and it looked like they were going to take the lead. They were really high pressing, they were high pushing, and Steve Cooper starts off the season on a massive positive. And I did say them to stay up, and if they play like that, that is pretty good. Defensively, they look quite sound, and once they get that first goal, it seemed like they could have got a second goal if they got the goal a bit earlier. But they're facing Fulham, which played very well defensively, and Adama Traore and Tete was by far the biggest attacking threats for Fulham. But I thought Calvin Bessie played well, other than the mistake right at the end of the game, which could have cost them a 2-0 loss instead of a 1-0. But still, Calvin Bessie and Diop did really well in that defence. Tete was absolutely electric. They started off energetic, but other than that, you know, Adam Traore got found out. The attack kind of fizzled out for Fulham in that game, and Man United was a deserved team. But they're at Craven Cottage, Fulham, and I cannot split the sides. In my opinion, they've got the same quality sides, and Leicester look very promising against Spurs. So I think they can get something against a Fulham side which struggled attackingly. They've still got enough attacking threat with Muniz and Adama Traore to get a goal, and overall this could even out to a 1-1 draw. I cannot split the sides. As we move on to Manchester City versus Ipswich Town, it's at the Etihad Stadium, the last of the 3 PM kickoffs. Ipswich have had such a hard start. And you know what? In the first half, Ipswich, they played pretty well against Liverpool. They were really pushing, high pressing, trying to really catch Liverpool in their own half. But overall, it wasn't enough. And facing Man City, it's not going to be enough. Easy win for Man City. Well, not easy. Ipswich are going to give it a good go. But you know what I mean. Man City are Man City. And Ipswich, I feel like they will survive. But they're going to start off pretty slow, especially going against Liverpool, Man City. I'm going for a 3-0 win towards Manchester City. As we move on to Villa Park, Aston Villa versus Arsenal. Much closer game at 5:30 PM on the 24th of August. And I can't split the sides. I originally was thinking this could be a draw. And it could be. Villa played very well against West Ham, which did fantastic in the transfer market. Duran getting on the score sheet. Great to see him. Is he now going to be a bit more of a starter? Oh, Rana, what a signing, because he made a debut goal. Aston Villa played very well. Maatsen looked quite composed. I wouldn't be surprised for a draw, but Arsenal, I think, will get a clean sheet. Despite Aston Villa having a great attack, their defence is still really good, and I think David Raya, you know, really was the difference, because Wolves had some good shots which should have gone in, but David Raya did really well as a goalkeeper. He's definitely in my top 3 goalkeepers in the Premier League, and if you've got a good keeper like that, they're definitely going to get a clean sheet. And I think David Raya is a better goalkeeper than Areola, so it should be harder for Aston Villa to score. So I'm going Aston Villa 0, Arsenal 1. It will only be just about, but I wouldn't be surprised for a draw. As we move on to the Vitality Stadium, it's AFC Bournemouth versus Newcastle United. In history, in recent time, I always think Newcastle, easy win against Bournemouth. I mean, Bournemouth, come on, easy peasy. No, they seem to always get the better of us, or at least a draw. Usually it turns out to be a draw. Last year, I think we lost 2-0. Last time we played them, we drew it 2-2. The time before, we drew it 1-1. And I remember we drew loads of other times. We don't have the best record against Bournemouth. We're away from home, and against Southampton, Fabian Schär's missing the next 2-3 games. So that's weakened our defence. The defence is still good. Nick Pope is still world class. So I don't see Bournemouth scoring any more than 1 goal. And considering Bournemouth don't really have a striker position sorted out, especially with the departure of Solanke, they're definitely only going to score maximum of 1 goal. I want to go Newcastle, but considering Southampton dominated Newcastle, and Newcastle don't have Fabian Schär, and they're away from home, and the history against Bournemouth haven't been fantastic, I think Newcastle will only get a point here. I've just got a sense feeling at home, Bournemouth will get a point. I'm hoping not, but I'm going for another 1-1 draw come the final whistle. But I hope I'm wrong. As we move over to the Molyneux Stadium, Wolverhampton Wanderers face Chelsea. Chelsea, bit of a mess, 43 players. Raheem Sterling wasn't even in the team. He's not happy. Some other players are probably not going to be happy because they're not going to be able to get good enough play time. They lost against Man City, but at times they looked like they should have scored, you know. And they kept it quite tight in terms of possession. Cucurella got absolutely destroyed by Haaland, you know. And it was hard. It's against Man City. You can't say, oh, this is end of Chelsea, no hope, we lost against Man City. Because when Pedro Neto came on, that was the energetic spark that Chelsea needed. Pedro Neto has to start against his former club Wolves. Because when he came on, changes happened. And Cole Palmer will score. Wolves is an easier side against Man City, so Chelsea will definitely get a point because of that and that alone. If Pedro Neto starts alongside Cole Palmer, maybe. And maybe if they don't captain Enzo Fernandez, because what happened during the summer and all that stuff was kind of hard to put him as captain. Plus, he didn't have a fantastic game. Maybe captain someone else. And there's a lot of messy stuff going around Chelsea, so I wouldn't be surprised for a draw. But going against Wolves, which lost against Arsenal, and Wolves have weakened in the transfer window with the loss of Pedro Neto and Kilman, I feel like Chelsea can win this with some signs against Man City. And they've got the likes of Cole Palmer. I feel like they're going to get back onto it. And I feel like they will win this. But I wouldn't be surprised for a draw, especially all the bad things that happen to Chelsea at the moment. But I am going to go for a narrow 2-1 win away from home for Chelsea. And we move on to Anfield. It's Liverpool versus Brentford. Brentford superb. And Bournemouth did really well. And Leicester did really well. I could keep it going. They did really well. Full stop. You know, that build-up for that goal that Mbeumo scored, you know the build-up if you watched it. It was sensational. You know, a bit like the Liverpool build-up with Trent making some great passes. It was a great pass. Salah into Jota. Jota score. Both teams had those world-class spells. But overall, Liverpool are just better. Sorry, Brentford, you look good against Crystal Palace, but away from home against Liverpool. I'm going to go for a classic 3-1 Liverpool win, which happened a lot last season. But Liverpool are the better side, so I'm going 3-1. And goal of the week was between Diego Jota's goal and Mbeumo's goal. The reason why I picked those two was because of how the build-up happened with the team. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. It was a great build-up, but I am going to go Brentford, even though I would say they're equal, because it's very rare that Brentford are going to have a goal like that to be that world class at all times. And if you don't know, it's 1 point for win, draw, or lose, and it's 2 points for the exact correct result, and it's 0 points if I get neither correct. So I got 7 points out of 20 points, not bad. But for now, if you want to like and subscribe, you can. Comment your predictions down below, and toodle pip.